Hello and welcome to the DrivingMaul show here on New Zealand Sports Radio. Hi, I'm Paul and I'll be your principal host, but I've got two guys with me who you'll recognise, two voices who are synonymous with New Zealand Sports Radio and with rugby in New Zealand. First up, it's Ashwin. How you doing, sir?
Yeah, not bad. Yeah, doing well. I had my ice cream, so I'm happy days.
Oh, all right for you. Yeah, I had a bit of a head cold. I'm just getting over it now, but 3 days with no beer or coffee. I tell you, it's a shock to the system. I'm not sure if it's head cold or if it's detox that's making me feel bad. I'll tell you. On the old Lemsip here, and also joining us is the homeless man. It's Stephen Harris. How you doing, sir?
Yeah, good evening, Paul. Always a privilege and a pleasure to be on the TDM now. I actually think of my best ideas when I'm actually sitting behind the wheel. So, hence I'm sitting behind the wheel. Hopefully, I come up with something decent this evening.
Oh dear! See, what we need you to do is need to get you a camper van like Scott Quinnell had for the Lions tour. So you've got yourself a mobile studio, and you can drive around and jump out and just jump in the back and have a mobile studio in the back of your van. That's what we need for you. Although I'm not sure that the upcoming emissions taxes on vehicles will allow us to splash out on such a big vehicle for you. But there you go.
It needs an EV.
Pardon?
It needs an EV.
Camper van. Do they have EV camper vans?
I don't know.
Anyway, I'm anti-EV. I'm pro-hydrogen. I'm actually a hydrogen-based economy, not a carbon one. So there we go. Simon says, good evening and congratulations to the Ireland men sevens team and the French women who have both, and the Russian women who have all qualified for the Olympics. And that's key, folks, because with Tonga not making it to the Olympics, they can't slip Charles Piutau in to their Olympic team to get him to qualify for Tonga. So he still can't change nations in that one. And if you want to hear about my thoughts on players playing for different nations, I've released a supporters special podcast and video today. Just head over to nzsportradio.com to get access to that one. Also, Simon says, congratulations to Benetton winning the Rainbow Cup. I mean, Stephen, you keep an eye on the old European rugby. What do you think of the powerhouse of Benetton becoming the North and South champions of rugby? I always find it good, Archie, when he goes off mute.
Yeah, when he goes off mute. Yeah, that's full credit to Benetton beating the Bulls.
Full credit.
You
definitely.
Look, the whole Rainbow Cup's been a bit of a funny tournament. The Bulls weren't allowed to travel with their Springboks, so it wasn't a full-strength Bulls side. The Bulls also had to put out another side in the Currie Cup on the same weekend as well. So they had 2 games playing this weekend of the Bulls. So all a bit strange, really.
So how much? I mean, going forward, this Rainbow Cup thing. And the South African sides playing up in Europe, are the people that run the competition just going to look at the dollars, or will they sort of say, "Hey, look, if you can't take this seriously and you have players out for the South African team, which is understandable, but then the Bulls having a game in the Currie Cup as well, and then you send up half a team up to play in the Rainbow Cup, are they going to look at that and go, no, thanks, but no thanks? Or are they going to say, oh, no, the money's coming and we don't care. You do what you want.
Well, we've got what's it called now? The URC is kicking off next season. And I'm going to try and remember what the URC stands for. Is it Unified Rugby Championship or something like that? Anyway, it's another name that has Rugby Championship in it.
Right.
And that is the new name for the Pro 14 come South African tournament. So basically the Pro 16 is going to be called this, URC next season. United Rugby Championship. Thank you very much, Simon.
I was going to say, as Simon says.
Yes. It's not unified, it's united. There you go. I mean, just the naming of these tournaments is just appalling.
Well, to be honest, United Rugby Championship sounds a lot better than Rainbow Cup.
Oh yes.
Well, and then this is like when I see Rainbow Cup, all I can think of is that cake that you buy at the supermarket that's got the 3 coloured layers.
Oh dearie me. See, when I see rainbow, I think of rainbow flags and pride. I automatically think of it as being the Pride Cup kind of thing, but it's not, obviously. But it's about being Rainbow Nation and all that kind of stuff. So it was always a one-off name, just to fill in a window. Right. And yes, the Rainbow Cup was purely a coffers thing, that they had to put together a competition with South African teams to get the TV money, and that's where the Rainbow Cup came about. But the United Rugby Championship going forwards should be a more sensible competition, he says. Well, we'll see about that. And good evening to Bella, who's no, he's gone now.
No, he's gone again. No, he came and gone. He came and gone.
Okay, well, we'll save the talk about tackling below the armpits until he arrives, just in case it happens. Just in case he gets here, because I think we didn't talk about that last week. Other things that have been going on then, and obviously the big news is thank you, Simon. Yeah, the Mark Bingham Cup is the gay rugby one. Yes, absolutely. I'm just saying that when you hear rainbow, that's why I automatically think about it. We'll get on to the squads in a second. But have you seen the news that Australia the Australia Rugby and New Zealand Rugby are arguing again around the format of Super Rugby?
I haven't. I saw the headline. I haven't read the article yet, so I won't comment because I don't know what the ins and outs of the argument are. Probably lack of action on our behalf, I'm guessing.
Well, it's a couple of things here. One is that New Zealand Rugby basically wants to run things and have a say, and have total say as to what happens, basically. And also, Rugby Australia has noticed that they got much better viewer figures when they weren't playing New Zealand teams than when they were, and hence a domestic competition. I'll just invite Bella in. Good evening, Bella. How are you doing?
Very good evening to everyone. Fine, thank you. Lovely to see a full house today. 4 squares. It looks very nice.
And you're not in your garage. You've got some. It looks like you're in a proper sound studio.
He's going to be doing some doof by the looks of it.
Well, I am still in my garage. I've you can see some very vintage audio. I'm a collector. I'm a connoisseur of vintage audio. So I finally decided to take it out of storage, and I'm actually enjoying it now. So I've decided to use it as my backdrop. Kind of makes it look like I'm in some kind of funky studio.
Actually, you sound like you're coming through in hi-fi this evening for some reason. What?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, Bluetooth headset, new headset. Actually, what's right behind me was built in 1969 in Wahi. So it's part of New Zealand audio history. What I have right at the back, just for the viewers' benefit. Just
in Wahi?
Put it out
That's
there.
where I live.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I know. That's why I said Paul. Yeah, it used to have a school of vintage audio, because back then, due to the trade agreements between Japan and New Zealand, you couldn't actually import most of these Japanese hi-fi. So you had to bring the parts in, and it was assembled here. So what you see in the background, a set of IVA speakers, and this is called a Majestic MT3000 tower system. You know, the old 3-in-1.
Yep, Majestic.
So,
yep.
Yeah, my pride and joy.
Well, there we go. So Wahi now has got a big hole in the ground as a gold mine. So it used to be the music capital of New Zealand. Well, there we go. I didn't know that. Moving on then.
Back to rugby.
Back to rugby. Yep. Part of the discussion is the sustainability of these of the two teams. In fact, they need 10 million a year. Where's that money going to come from? Also, so if with a 5-year agreement, that's $100 million that needs to be found from somewhere to fund these two teams. So first off, there's that question. The monetary split. I think the way that New Zealand, the what's the word I'm looking for? The intimation, but it's not actually stated in the article, is that because New Zealand's TV rights went up, but Australia's went down. I think New Zealand Rugby is trying to suggest that you both just keep your own TV money rather than it going into a pot and being shared 50-50. So I think it's it's all going to be a bit interesting to see how this one plays out. Australia might sort of apparently considering a conference format where they all have a round robin internally with the Fiji Drua, and New Zealand have a round robin with Moana Pacifica, and then you have a finals at the end, which I'm not anti, to be honest with you. Your thoughts? Anyone else's thoughts on the structure? Does it have to be round robin? Do we have to play everyone home and away? I mean, it doesn't happen in NRL. Do you need it for rugby?
Yes.
Yeah.
Why?
I was thinking,
look, gentlemen, with TV rights, with TV ratings, obviously the evidence suggests that a standalone competition, i.e., what's happened in Australia over the last year, is probably the way to go. So having a best of maybe 8 or a final 4 knockout will probably be the way forward, because the way I see it is, and most of you would agree, is a standalone competition, particularly when we had Super Rugby Aotearoa. The games were far more interesting. They were more closer, they were more even, and same thing with Super Rugby Australia. And they actually someone won it. Someone won a title. In this case, it was the Reds. So there was more fan engagement from that point of view. And we're not going to see a lopsided competition, as was the case with Super Rugby Trans-Tasman. So I think going standalone and having a effective, exciting knockout right at the end is probably something what the fans will really buy into.
What about having round robin and you're keeping separate tables as well?
Well, they tried that. They tried that a number of seasons with the conferences, and it failed because the TV ratings just plummeted, and the competition wasn't there. And also throw in the travel time, everyone started whinging and moaning about it, and it just disappeared and dissolved. So I don't think trying the same thing again is going to give you a different result.
You obviously don't have the travel time because you're not playing South Africa in the middle of the night, so you can actually see all the games, which is a good thing.
But well, the other thing is that, I mean, like, I'm not convinced with in the fact. I mean, I sort of agree with what you're saying, Boa. But the other thing is that, like, if you look at it, so the Reds picked up a win. Was it the Brumbies picked up a win, or was it Reds? Yeah. So if they don't play us, if they don't play the New Zealand teams, where's the improvement going to come from? If they live in a bubble where they believe that they're good and they believe that they're progressing, but the reality is that they're not. And we've sort of seen that in the fact that if we didn't have the Trans-Tasman competition, we'd have thought, everything's hunky-dory in Australia land, because look at how good their competition is. And between them, it was, but they really didn't go anywhere in terms of progression. Well, they didn't. But and then you look at the Reds, they were competing. I mean, like, they picked up a win. I think there's some issues around the last 20 for the Australian teams and keeping pace. Maybe it's a fitness thing or something. I don't know. But there were times when they were still competitive, even though they didn't win. The Force, for example, running the Crusaders close in Christchurch, and then coming up the week later when most teams, usually, they've run the Crusaders close. Brumbies ran the Crusaders close, got smashed the next week by the Blues. The Force ran the Crusaders close, came up to Eden Park, looked like it was over at halftime, and then all of a sudden got back in the match. So if we don't give them game time, are they going to improve?
Look, I'm not disputing that at all. In fact, I agree 100%. What I am saying is, as far as TV ratings, numbers, and economics, that will dictate that having separate conferences and competitions is the way forward. So absolutely, Ashwin, I completely agree, because others, it's kind of like, racehorses running out in the country, and soon as they keep winning, running in the same race course, and you come to the metro meetings, and then you get absolutely
Take them to the Melbourne
donkey
Cup
licked.
and they come last.
Yeah, they come last. So yeah, absolutely agree with you. But I think with economics, and given that financially all the unions are trying to scrape every single dollar they can and get absolute fan engagement, get their merchandise, get value for sponsors. And this is something which is being spoken about a lot, eyeballs in front of the computers, as well as handheld devices for the sponsors.
I still think, and we've talked, I mean, like off air, not within the show, I don't believe we've spoken about it, but Steve, we've spoken about it. Marketing of rugby is shocking, isn't it? Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, I agree. I'm putting my finger up there. It's just a shame that the two unions actually can't see the bigger picture.
Yeah.
Try and improve the competition to make it actually watch worthy and creditable. And if you work together, there's a couple of things that you can do. Listen, open it up a little bit, so maybe some of the Australian teams can select a marquee team from New Zealand. But the New Zealand Rugby Union, they, when you go down that path, they clam up. They don't want to know it. But if you want to put a quality product together for broadcasters to throw more money at it, there'll be more enough of the pie to share around in terms of income.
Good point there, Steve. I mean, like if you look at if the Force are able to hang on to their squad a bit, I don't know what the logistics or reality of that is, but they would have to be one of the big improvers out of Australian rugby, right? And if they're together, that same squad's together for next year, and they can have the likes of the Kahuians and the Thrush, and that's showing what they can bring to the Force, they're gonna be even stronger next year, I think, with that season together. And as you're saying, if it's like the NZRFU were open to sort of, maybe they could put some parameters around who can go and play, but not just Muppets, but some decent players. But maybe if you're in this squad pick, you have to play locally, but beyond that, you can actually pick some outside of the wider group, All Black group, so to speak, or something like that. You know what I mean?
But look, I don't think if you have if you say, right, we have to have a standard contract across all Super Rugby teams that says that players must be released for all Blacks or Wallabies training camps, and you say, right, we have the same access to the players if they're playing in New Zealand or Australia, who cares who they're playing for? Then it doesn't matter. As far as I'm concerned, they can go. That is a that's something that can be worked out contractually, and there's no reason. I mean, flying to Sydney from Auckland is probably easier, or pre-COVID anyway, than flying to Invercargill or down to Dunedin. So it doesn't make any difference if they're playing in Sydney. Let's be honest. So from that point of view, I think mixing and also allowing Australian players to come play over here as well. That way, you make it. That's you allow them to grow that way. On the marketing side of things, Simon says that we copy the NRL marketing too much, he thinks. But hey, that's because they do it well, or the results are good from their marketing.
Yeah, but I agree with Simon on that one. If we do copy the NRLs, and the NRL is copying the NFL, that's blatantly obvious. If you watch a bit of NFL, or if you know what the marketing styles are, it is so obvious the NRL is basically just taking the blueprint. So why aren't we taking that shortcut and going, if we're going to do that, go and watch the NFL and how they market and copy that rather than copy NRL?
I have heard, like I asked the question a few years ago why they wouldn't basically open it up. Now I've heard through somebody through the rugby union that what they're trying to do is they're trying to protect the game over here. So your guys who don't make Super Rugby, like your Lincoln McClutchies and guys like that who are probably good enough to play Super Rugby, will basically stay playing in your local club competitions over here. But I'm thinking to myself, since when did the New Zealand Rugby Union worry about the level of the club game, for crying out loud? Yeah. What, all of a sudden they grow up here and start worrying about the game at club level? Gee whiz.
Look, one thing I have to say is, look, we're going to have to start getting a bit creative if we are going to grow this part of the game. And something which I'm quite keen on is having a mid-season transfer where we actually allow players to transfer to other clubs. Pretty much like what they do in the EPL with soccer. So again, we've got to try something different. We've got to be innovative, and that's actually going to get a lot of interest. And precisely what Steve was saying, some of those second-tier players who are actually struggling to get a break in some of the top with our franchise rugby. They'll just walk into some of these sides. So I think, again, we've just got to manage that side, and we can't be using the same high performance models. The problem with NZR, and I hope NZR aren't listening to me now, is they keep using the same high performance models for the last 10 years. It hasn't evolved. Because this is something I grapple with on a seasonal basis, where contracted players who are based overseas, who want to come and play some club rugby here and integrate themselves back into the provincial and then hopefully the franchise system, there isn't much allowance for that because they scoff at that. If anyone goes overseas, that's it. We don't want to know you. So that needs to change. And how are we going to manage it? So that's going to be a challenge. And with bigger pay packets being offered, we will see more and more talent who just miss out. Nani Laumapi being a classic example.
I'd love to know how many players are playing in the MRL right now. How many New Zealand players? I bet you there's a fair few.
Yeah, there are
playing over there. I'm not talking about your high end profile players, but you're talking about guys who are probably, didn't quite crack MITA, or in some cases, some guys who have been in MITA, or you've got guys who have been ex-All Blacks and coming towards the end of their career and just basically picking up a little bit of extra cash along the way. I reckon you'd probably get 50 or 60 if you did a count of some sort.
But just coming back to what Bo was saying, though, I mean, in terms of those the players that want to come back and play club rugby over here, professionals from overseas, it's like, what's our biggest problem at club level? We talked about it just a couple of days ago, Steve. The fact is that the under-21 squad's masquerading as Prem teams, right? And it's just like, what is that? What do they need? They need experienced players to come back and play at club level to help those young fellas learn what the game's about, to take that next step. And you don't have it.
I think we all agree that New Zealand rugby is, and this is one of the things that Nocturnal Rights and Simon's saying here. Look, maybe New Zealand rugby is scared of views of losing control of players to the Aussie market. Maybe the players will see more than one path. Yep, true. And we need to move away from being a one-team country All Blacks, and that's the big thing.
Absolutely.
Sees everything as being subservient to the All Blacks, and doesn't allow it to stand on its own or have any of its own value.
I'll show how that comment by Simon is so pertinent. Boa, how many junior teams at your Manukau Rovers?
2 this season. It's
2 junior teams.
Yeah,
like schoolboy level.
Yeah. So,
so how many league teams? How many league teams in that where Boa's club is? There's over 40 junior teams in the league club, and it's just like all because the NZRFU focused on All Blacks rugby only, forgot about everything else, and that is the end result of what's happening in Auckland.
So this season, Manukau Rose, we're not feeling a 21s, no under 21s. First time. It's very alarming. It's a big red flag for me, given that we have 9 key first 15 schools in our catchment area, and this is something. It's a problem. It is a huge problem. So I hear Ashwin.
So we go, folks. I think we've dived into a number of things here, but the big one at the end of the day is New Zealand rugby. We've looked at, and one of the other things we looked at is the people who sit on the board. It's all based around the All Blacks, and everything else gets given pretty much comes a distant second, and is not doesn't get a look in. One that I think that we should just quickly touch on Here, this is legacy of the Boston Report back in the 90s. Yep, absolutely. And I'm not saying that the All Blacks need to be ignored. Absolutely not. No, you still need to.
It's still your shop window.
Still your shop window. It's still where most of your money is going to come in. But you also need to give other levels some ability to try and stand on their own 2 feet. Boa, with your safe tackle framework hat on at this point, which obviously doesn't fit because you've got your headphones on, but over in the UK, the RFU has decided that all age grades will now have tackling from the armpits downwards. This is something that was in place up until under 14s until recently, and then from next season they're raising it up to under 18s. I guess just your thoughts on that one. To my mind, a good move, but your thoughts on the with your safe tackle framework hat on.
Yeah, look, fantastic move. But the one key ingredient missing in all this is the visual guideline. We need to have visual guidelines. All the research I have done, all the input, all the feedback from parents, coaches, players is that they need visual guidelines. It's like driving on the motorway. It's like having your lane markers in cat's eyes. Now, even with all this, we have about 500 fatalities every year, about 60% on the motorway. So imagine if we didn't have lane markings and everyone had to drive on the motorway, what sort of carnage and chaos? It's the same principle. We have to simplify this. We have to make it so obvious. And the reality is every single union, particularly with the on-field refereeing at elite level, is having 6 different interpretations depending on what day of the week, who's playing, is it a final, is it a semi-final? There's no uniformity. But when you talk to World Rugby, they're absolutely convinced that they've got this right. But the reality is the disjoint between all the stakeholders is so much far apart. It is chaotic. So what really needs to happen is, I'm not going to say it, but just for God's sake, adapt a universal system right across the board. Focus on coach education, and if it's under the armpits, great. Get the safe tackle line, get the STL on it, revise the coaching guidelines, and make sure there are coaching educators and coach developers who actually correct the coaches if they go outside that framework. What's actually happening is, if you go into any of these elite coaching or defense coach classes, they practice targeting this sternum line and above. The reality is World Rugby want senior level to tackle below the shoulders, but if you look at pretty much every tackle, for example, in the Super Rugby the final, 95% of all contact was shoulder and above. And of course, we saw that yellow card. I mean, I wish I was watching it on black and white, Kodak Eastman. Then I would have not known the difference between the red and the yellow. It is ridiculous. So great initiative from the RFU. I'm really pleased to see them do it. But again, we can't be doing this by the halves. We have to do this properly. And,
can I point out something? There's a problem in Auckland. Again, sorry for the rest of the people out, but there's a problem in Auckland rugby. Because I'm involved in junior level rugby, right? And this is our schoolboys aren't watching rugby. Our schoolboys are watching another oval ball sport. And so they come into training and they're watching that and they're imitating that. And so what Vol was saying was about visualization or visuals to show them what to do. But the problem is the predominant sport that they're watching is about tackling high and even shoulders, not what we're saying rugby's about with arms and shoulders wrapping and all that. So they're coming in and it's like, doesn't matter how much you talk to them, nipples, hips, between there is what you're targeting. They're going high and inevitably they slip up around the head. Like a couple of weeks ago, my son's team, towards the end of the game in particular, when they're getting lazy and tired, this is that they got 3 advantages in a row for actual head high tackles. And it's like, well, I laid into the kids afterwards because it's like, what are you doing? You're not allowed to tackle up there. But that's what they see because that's what they watch.
I guess my only comment around the armpit one is it's more visual than nipples, which are hidden beneath the jersey. So to me, I mean, yeah.
No, it's fair
nipple
comment.
height
Fair
is a bit
comment.
of a
Fair
joke.
comment.
But with armpits, at least you can see what they are.
Paul, I get that. But again, if you look at the rule book, now if everyone followed the rules, we won't be having this issue. But the issue is bigger than ever. And the rules and regulation around this is bigger than ever. So we can't be continuing to do the same thing to expect a different result. So what all these unions are doing, because there is a technical committee with World Rugby who have vested interest. Let me say it again. There's a technical committee with WR who have vested interest because they have to make a living or a high performance. They're very hesitant to put any sort of guidelines. So it's all very well to expect our kids to be safe, but soon as we come into some level of competitiveness, it's okay, son. You can get a head knock or a concussion. So long as you get the W, we'll stage manage the whole thing. This is where the problem is.
Which is where my point's going to come in and around the actual punishments. If we're not getting that right in the interim, can we please just go to a yellow card, put it on report? Like, for example, in all honesty, probably somebody like Ash Dixon probably should be stood down for probably 3 games for his headshot on the weekend, and that way he is actually punished.
That's a good point.
Punished for that infraction.
That's a good point, because if you look at a couple of times during the season, obviously one that springs to mind is the Eklund WWF throw, is the fact that it was the on-field yellow. They deemed it to be sufficient for a red, and therefore afterwards they looked at it, and he got 3 games, I think it was, off the top of my head. That Ash Dixon one, I haven't met somebody who, I mean, apart from, you know, your blue and gold supporters, that has thought that shouldn't have been a red card. Go back and look at the Alex Hodgman one, which we all agreed was a red card, right? There is not a hell of a lot of difference, and I can't see a difference. Ash Dixon actually does launch upwards, just like Alex Hodgman did, and makes contact with the head. How can they not then, after the game, go, oh yeah, it's an off-field red, and then so he's going to get 2 or 3 weeks?
We can descend into this one and
oh no, but what we're not, okay, Paul, what we're doing there, we're not really discussing whether it should be the red or yellow on field. What we're talking about is the inconsistency
process
of what is going on.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying.
But how are we expecting the things to change if that inconsistency continues?
Yeah, we've discussed inconsistent refereeing before, so I don't want to descend into doing that.
Inconsistent. No. We're not talking about inconsistent refereeing. We're talking about the after-game process, which is also inconsistent. So that's not the referee on the field that's making split decisions, second decisions. This is afterwards, and the officials and the people that run the game that are sending mixed signals out there.
So in STF, Safe Tackle Framework for the professional game, the answer for this was the orange card. Don't give a red. Do not give a red unless it's blatantly obvious that it's foul play. It's 10 minutes in the bin, and there's a mandatory judicial hearing. It happens within 48 hours. And if there's a further case to answer, there's further sanctions. If you're free to go, you're free to go. But for some reason, as I said, very hesitant. However, I have to say this is now being trialed in Wales. So watch this space. I'm talking to a few other unions as well. Japanese Rugby Union are very interested. They think this is the next best thing since sliced bread. So let's wait and see, gentlemen. Interesting times ahead.
So it's good
a lot of
see
nocturnals idea.
Other ones, we'll have to to bring it back very quickly to the RFU one. The reason they've said that they're going down for the armpit one is to stop heads being in the same space and having head clashes. That's where they've seen the problem. More rather than necessarily people taking people's heads off, it's more about two heads going bang to each other, which is why they're trying to bring it down from here to get the heads out of the same space. The Nocturne writes, suggestion there that coaches get penalised for too many team cards, maybe. All I can see there is that it's difficult to provide a coaching penalty because if it's financial,
you can. So what you do, we'll take it from another sport, right? This is like cricket, slow over rate. The captain can get a suspension if the over rate is over and over, there's continual infringement. So it's just like, okay, the teams receive 3 yellow cards. Coach can't coach for a week and is not allowed to be at team trainings.
So
and
based
at
on
the
that,
game, and at the game.
on that, Scott Robertson might not have a job.
I know you're just working part time, right?
Crusaders don't get bloody cards, do they?
Oh dear. Anyway, the main topic of the show, then, guys, is I'd like to get on to the All Black squad and the Maori All Black squad, if that's okay. Yawn. Oh dear.
Look. I mean, I think. I mean, there's been a few comments online as well. As like, geez. I mean, how underwhelming is that squad? I'm sorry. It really doesn't. It really doesn't excite the juices at all.
Okay, so let's bring the squad up then.
Squad up.
How would you change the squad to be excited, Arthur?
Oh, look. I mean, like, I tell you what. One of the players that you're sort of, even though he was in the Crusader squad, that you liked, sort of look forward to seeing play, was Lester Whainukunuku. I mean, you wanted him to get the ball and to see what he was going to do, and that's excitement. That's like bringing you to the game. You want to watch it. You want to see it. I mean, he made things happen. So to not see a name like that and Quinta Pai, I know Quinta Pai is a good player and everything, but to me, it's like we need X Factor players, and because that's honestly, after last year when we lost to Australia, we lost to Argentina. Geez, where is this team going? I mean, we look at our back row, and I suppose we'll pick the best that we've got, but there's no Jerome Kaino, there's no Jerry Collins type enforcer type person there at all that gets you. I can't wait to see him hit a player. Talking of safe tackle framework. But that sort of thing, it just seems to be nothing there. I don't know. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me somebody that that would bring that X factor to the game.
Yeah, well, look, very, very underwhelming. There's one particular player I'm actually quite flabbergasted as to is Angus in the front row. Yeah, look, I don't know why, but it's been picked. I think Alex Hodgman can consider himself very, very unlucky. Potentially that red card and that little layoff. But, Alex, wonderful ball carrier, lots of expect as Ashwin was talking about. But looking at, I guess, how the whole coaching group have picked their players, they're profiling on making sure that they get the conventional side of rugby. They tick the boxes. They don't necessarily like those X Factor players. They don't necessarily like those people who are going to do something a little bit different. So, very, very underwhelming for me. And of course, Finlay Christie. Wow. That was
just something, it's just like, people have made the comment. I say, obviously, Nocturnals mentioned Nariki. I mean, there's another player that is an X Factor player, but with Leicester, they're talking about his defense, but it's just like, surely if you're the All Blacks coach, you back yourself to fix his defensive frailties, because you're the best coach in this country if you're the All Blacks coach, aren't you?
I agree.
Yeah, but only if you're white. Remember, we don't like any non-white coaches in the All Blacks.
Oh dear, that's another point for another day. I was gonna say, listen. I agree with Whainuku and Jonah Nareki. I actually agree we should have really looked at those selections because, and I mean this with the greatest respect to Tonga and Fiji, but realistically, I think that was the ideal opportunity to try these guys just to see how good they are. My issue with Finlay Christie is, I think we all know that TJ Perenara is probably going to come back into the fold, and somewhere in the future we can see a Whakatava. My issue for somebody like Finlay Christie is he going to be another guy who's going to be a 2 or 3 test All Black and get put on the scrap heap sort of thing, where in the interim you probably could have gone back to a Mitchell Drummond just for this particular series. I don't know. From what I've seen of Finlay Christie, he's been fortunate enough to play behind a very good Tasman pack and also a a very good Auckland Blues pack, beg your pardon, during TT SR. So I think he's been sort of quite fortunate in that respect. But I just see things in his game that I don't know. Listen, at the end of the day, I sound like a moaning old man, but credit to him for getting to the very top of rugby in New Zealand. But yeah, there's just a couple of selections great with me. Angus Tarval is another one. Aidan Ross could probably consider himself really, really unlucky not to have made this team. Like, looking good to see somebody like Ethan de Groot in the team, but I would suggest maybe some of these selections, you wonder if they would have been there if there weren't as many injuries to a lot of key guys as well, guys.
Hey, guys, I'll ask a question.
Just on Philly Christie's one, because everyone else had a chat about him so far. I just want to throw in there that maybe the All Blacks just trying to cap him so Scotland don't get him, and then he never gets capped again.
Well, that's what's going to happen. Well, that's what's going to happen. As I said, with TJ. I mean, let's face it. If Fakatava wasn't injured, he's a lay down Nazir to get in the All Black squad, right? Yeah. We talked about during the season, he'd got in our opinion, and it was sort of pretty much unanimous, I think, on the show, that Fakatava had put himself ahead of TJ Perenara as the second best halfback in the country.
Well, having not seen TJ play this year because he's obviously in Japan. He has been playing very, very well.
Based on his previous form, you sort of look at Fakatava and the way he was playing, he was dynamic. I mean, I'm not saying TJ isn't, but like he'd moved a step ahead.
I am surprised TJ's not here ahead of Christie, especially as he played club rugby at the weekend, so he's played in New Zealand, so should be eligible.
Yes.
Now, one of the things I think is one of the things that could be happening here is that, well, A, do they just want to cap Christie so that Scotland can't get him? Secondly, is TJ paying for the fact that he was going to go to league, and that basically New Zealand Rugby see that as a betrayal, and therefore say, right, mate, we don't like you anymore. You're not in the side. I wouldn't be surprised
because he'll be back. Let's face it. If we were picking a World Cup squad for to play next year or say this year, you'd be looking at, so your halfbacks would be Aaron Smith, TJ Perenara, and then it'd be a toss-up of whether you'd take an inexperienced Fakatava or whether you'd take a Brad Weber.
Yep.
That would be the toss-up. They're simple as that. So I don't think the league thing comes into it at all, to be honest. Artie Severe's made noises about going to league as well.
Yes, but TJ got as far as actually having agreed a contract if he could get himself insurance. He took it a bit further. And there's definitely egos and that kind of thing within rugby. I wouldn't be surprised if there's an element there of me coming out my conspiracy theories. I wouldn't be surprised if there's an element of TJ. That's part of the selection criteria.
I just wanted to, we were talking about Alex Hodgman. Because we're talking about Alex Hodgman, I want to throw this on. But I don't see the big raving about George Bauer. I mean, I look at it, and when the Crusaders squad team, when they had Moody and on the field, and the All Blacks started Toa, all great. When they went to their bench and Bauer coming on, that scrum was not stable.
Yeah, I fully agree, and I think, look, with the first two games against Tonga and Fiji, with the greatest respect for them, I think we could have easily picked a younger side where we could have fitted in all these X Factor guys, given them a run, tried things out, and this is where maybe guys like Tamti Williams and absolutely Jonah Nareki. I think Nareki had the most number of line breaks in both Super Rugby competitions, and most number of meters post contact. And boy, that guy, he's got wheels, he's got X Factor, he's got kids talking about him, he's got, he can step, and that's the sort of player you really need to be trying out. And same thing with guys like Lester Fanganuku. You look at some of the stats, excitement machine, X Factor, but for some reason, looking at the players have been picked, that profile just goes, it's a yin and yang. So it's just not compatible. And that tells me the coaching group has gone with the same old. And we're going to probably see what we're going to see last year. one thing I do have to say, just catching up with what Nocturnal said to do with Tyrell Lomax and his technique, particularly his tackle technique. Last year we saw that high shot on the Argentinian back row. Again, it should have been a red card. One of my worries, based on what I'm seeing with the Trans-Tasman Super Rugby, is that once this squad, unless we actually make a deliberate change in our tackle technique, when we go to the Northern Hemisphere, I think we're going to see a lot of red cards. So that's something the squad and the coaching group need to be.
Should have been watching the show on Sunday night, mate.
That's exactly what we said on Sunday night. So yes, we've covered that one again. Totally agree with you on that one. Just some things about this one. I think one of the reasons that they've not gone down the route of having kind of an experimental squad is that this squad is actually still pretty inexperienced. You've got players like George Bridge, 10 caps, Will Jordan 2, Sevu Reece 8 in that back three already. In the centres, Braden Ennall's got 1 cap, David Havili 3, Quintapine 0. Now, I agree, Quintapine could be replaced by Lester Fainuku. I'd be happy with that change. In the halfbacks, Brad Weber with 7, even though he's supposed to be heading overseas. Finlay Christie with none. In that back row, Artie Surveyor's got 49, Shannon Frizzell 13. None of the other back rowers have got double figures. Blackadder, Nort, Iwani and Jacobson both got 2. Papialihi 4, so 225. In the lot. This is a very inexperienced side. I think they want to get caps under their belts.
Yeah, but here's the thing, right? Who are they playing?
I hear you, but I'm saying that they want one of those. If you're a stats person, Boa, you'll know that there's an average number of caps you're supposed to have by the time you get to Rugby World Cup. Okay, South Africa threw that out the window last one, but in all previous Rugby World Cups, you're trying to get so many caps, an average cap number, and I think that's part of what they're doing here is they're saying that they can't afford, having lost the games due to COVID last year, they can't afford to not be selecting their full strength squad every game.
Yeah, definitely. There is an element to that. And look, the reality is, guys, sometimes you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. You can't fit all these players in. But looking at the schedule and who we are playing, and given that we're playing at home, I think there's always that element where we can take a bit of a gamble. And I mean, guys like John and Nareki, after doing everything they've done, guys like Lester, from a coaching, if I was in that situation, I'm going to have a conversation with them. And if they said, what do I need to do to get picked? It's a savage blow to their confidence. So anyway, that's it is what it is. I guess we're never ever going to agree on all of this, but the general consensus is that we need more X factor. Unfortunately, we haven't gone with that now, have we?
Well, I would love to see Nareki in the squad. I'm explaining why I think they've gone the way that they've gone.
Yeah.
And you've got to say, if when you look at that back three of Barrett, McKenzie, Jordan, Reece, and Bridge, who are you going to drop for Nareki? To me, it would be Reece, but you could maybe, but he has a way of finding that try line. It's hard to say who you would drop there.
I'd say this would be a harsh call, but I would have gone Bridge because with his injuries, he just hasn't been there.
Yep.
And it's just like, well, hang on. I think we moved past the days when, you've got a black jersey, so you automatic selection. And let's face it, George Bridge, his work rate and everything is what he brings to the table, and that's what makes him so good is his work rate. But he just hasn't played this year.
Yep, and I think George Bridge is one of those sort of Ben Smith kind of players who they kind of go, oh, he's such a good footballer, we've got to put him in. I think that's where I think he's probably in that sort of category. Obviously, I think a lot of us would have seen. I think Quintapire having a season in the Maori All Blacks would have been very good for him, and having Lester Fainuku there would have been fine. We've also got the Maori All Black squad here as well. Any sort of thoughts or comments on that squad, folks?
Pretty predictable, I reckon.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's almost like a forgotten squad because the focus has almost been on the All Blacks. for me, a couple of standout players there. Tom T. Williams, particularly, I think, is a tremendous season. He's done particularly the scrummaging part really well. He's an exciting ball carrier. So I'd be keeping a real close eye on him and what sort of meters he's going to be doing, and some of the, playing out wide, carrying, seeing how he fits into their attack shapes. Yeah, I think Bryn Hall, another player, lots of excitement as well. And again, question mark, Finlay Christie, Bryn Hall, is there a debate to be had here, gentlemen?
I think it's what Steve said before. I mean, like, the reality is, I think going forward, if you're going to have, Aaron Smith, TJ Perenara, and Fakatava, then Finlay Christie's future in the black jersey is pretty short by the looks of it. So why would you go past either Mitch Drummond or Bryn Hall?
To cap him,
and of course,
no. Simon, wait. Simon or Nocturnal raised the point. Doesn't matter these days, does it? He takes the sevens route to get to play for Scotland.
That's always one thing I would say is the form online. The run-on form, current form of Sean Vainui. So it'd be really interesting to see if he can convert some of those into the Maori All Blacks. And again, he's one of those guys who knows exactly when to get involved in the action, and he's always very good at attacking space, and he's been doing that very consistently. So if he again, same boat as guys like Jordan Nareki, if you look at ticking all the boxes, they're doing that, and what more do they have to do to get selected? So more conundrums and more questions, and hopefully Sean Vainui can make a minority case for selection as well.
Yeah, I'm going to be a little bit controversial, I suppose, and the fact is that the Maori All Blacks just don't excite me, and the reason is because the All Blacks don't let the All Blacks coaches effectively don't let the Maori's All Blacks that in the All Black squad play for the Maori All Blacks, even if they're not required in the match day 23 and extras. And it's like, why not? I mean, the best Maori All Black squad and the best Maori All Blacks game was one that they played against Australia in Sydney, and you had the likes of a Troy Flavel, Ron Cribb, Carlos Spencer, and that really, talking about excitement, and excitement players, that was a Maori All Black squad. And it's just like, if they go do that, Maori All Blacks, going to get eyeballs in front of them, which they did in that game.
I was about to say, a game that would excite me is the best Māori players being available for the New Zealand Māoris playing the All Blacks. That would excite me absolutely no end, because I think the New Zealand Māoris would bring a heck of a lot of passion to that game, and there'd be a point to prove. And man, you look through that squad, especially in the locks. Man, there's some quality locks there. Both Paddy Parkinson and the likes of Selby Rick. Yeah, but Walker Leawere, Josh Dixon, man, those guys could probably all play international rugby. I mean, to say not for your top end ones, but man, these are sort of guys that would basically, in my opinion, push hard into some of the northern hemisphere sides. And you mentioned before of Sean Wainui. Sean Wainui kind of reminds me of Richard Kahui, the way he plays. He does most things right. Can play that centre winger position equally well, and is one skill that he's got is very, very good under the high ball. You put high kicks up in the air, and I heard the stat via Paul, who was speaking to a guy who just happened to be a class coach. Only 12% of high kicks are successful, but Sean Wainui on most occasions will contest high kicks very, very well.
Just on that, I can't. I mean, it's never. You're not going to get in Maori All Blacks against an All Blacks type game, really. I don't think that'll ever happen. But the reality is that there's no reason why you couldn't have a top level Maori All Black squad playing against an international. And like when they play Fiji's, when they've quite often the Maori All Blacks have been pushed out against Fiji, against Samoa, and against Tonga. It's just like, putting out the best of the best out there. If they're not playing for the All Blacks, why not?
Well, the All Blacks aren't playing this weekend, and the Maori All Blacks are playing Samoa. So therefore, this weekend they could, for example, have players like Dave McKenzie out of that All Black squad available.
Paul, crazily enough, if you went out to your stakeholders, who are the people who support the game, they would love that game. If you actually went out to all the rugby supporters in New Zealand, how would you feel about a New Zealand Māori game versus the All Blacks? They would absolutely love it. But once again, who's the handbrake here? Probably the New Zealand Rugby Union themselves and probably the All Black coaching. Why? Because I think there's probably a fear that they might get embarrassed.
But the other thing, Steve, I think to be fair and maybe a little bit controversial, is the fact is that there's probably more excitement in Maoridom about seeing a Maori All Blacks against the All Blacks than there is across the rest of the country. I'll be honest.
I totally disagree with you, brother. If you put that suggestion, that suggestion out there, that's a game that would excite people, because you know what the New Zealand Māori team will actually bring. You think back to the 70s where the New Zealand, ironically, the All Blacks played the New Zealand Juniors back in, I think it was 1973, and got beaten by the New Zealand Juniors quite comprehensively, and they actually did an internal tour around New Zealand, and they got big crowds watching those games. To be honest, that game would suit me, would excite me a hell of a lot more than, and like I say, with the greatest respect to Tonga and Fiji, a hell of a lot more than these upcoming games.
It'll certainly get
expect Maori All Blacks to be a stronger side, yes. So, but we're running out of time. I've got one question for you, boys. And now, when the Maori All Blacks squad was announced, we basically said, okay, these players are not going to be in the All Blacks, because the All Blacks have said that here's the players you can have. So it looks like Quintapaya was a late call-up to the All Blacks squad, as he was included in the Maori All Blacks. Now, the All Blacks squad was always going to be 36 players, I think. Who do you think was dropped to allow Quintapaya in, as he's come in to basically cover for Anton Brown's injury, hasn't he?
Firstly, before we cover that off, first, it's like we told you on Sunday, Steve and I both told you on Sunday, is that being named in the Maori All Blacks means nothing, because if the All Blacks want you, they go yoink, and you're
absolutely. But I think you've been named in that one because the Maori because the All Blacks said, you can have these players because we don't need them.
Yep. But you've said it. Leonard Brown's out. Goodhue's out. There's a bunch of midfielders out.
But they knew Goodhue was going to be out, right? Already. Leonard Brown is still named in the squad, and I think it's his injury that's caused, or who has Quintapaya? Basically replaced. Do you think in that squad?
Yeah, look, no question. I think Anton Leonard Brown is bracketed. He's to be assessed.
Yeah, but what Paul's saying is there was 36 going to be named. 36 have been named. So if Tapia wasn't there, who would have been there? Because Leonard Brown's name is still there in the 36. Yep. So it's like, who's missing? Is it Laumaupi?
Oh, you think Laumaupi was originally down?
No, he's not originally down. He's not originally down, but it's just like then you're going to have a Josh Goodhue would have Josh. Yeah, Josh, Jack, God, Josh. I'm doing a Paul. But yeah, Jack Goodhue would have been down there. It would have, but as I said, I mean, I don't know. And then they're sort of looking. So maybe they left that blank space. Getting swift on it. Had a blank space there, and they're basically waiting to see who was going to fit into it. There was nobody necessarily that was named there.
I wouldn't be surprised if someone's right here that a winger's been dropped, and it's been Lester Whainuku who's been dropped, and they brought Quintapaya because he can play 12.
Well, Nocturnal agrees with you.
No, I'm taking his idea.
Okay.
I'm taking Nocturnal's idea that winger's been dropped. I wouldn't be surprised that if it's basically that Whainuku was in, and he's been dropped because they need 12 cover, and that's why
he hasn't played wing for how long?
Oh yeah, but they've got enough wingers in the back. I think they would have had 6 wingers, six back, 3 players instead. And I reckon that with Rico and Braden Ennor both being very much 13s, that the 12s are Havili and Antoinette Brown, and that Quincy Pye has been brought in as a 12. Leicester can play wing at 13,
elbows,
but not 12.
While the elbow's recovering.
Yep. Bella?
Yeah, look, that's, to me, it's very intriguing. I'm thinking again, Leicester is the line through the middle. So, but again, maybe after the first couple of games, we might see Leicester coming back into the foray, albeit through an injury. So let's just wait and see how this whole thing plays out. And I'm actually expecting the All Blacks to come and really fire in these first couple of games and really get some excitement and imagination going, rather than playing, safety first, boring rugby. So I'm all very, very hopeful for Leicester firing the Nuku.
Cool, guys. Well, that takes us up to the hour mark. Unless there's something burning that you want to get off your chest, boys.
Yep. Go for
I was going to get some club results out.
Oh, sorry.
Before
Yep.
I do, just on my Twitter handle, which is @Stephen73_H, I've put the question out there. How excited as a New Zealand rugby supporter would you be if the All Blacks played the New Zealand Māori over 2 tests instead of the upcoming tests between Tonga and Fiji? For me, if the New Zealand Māori can have their best players available, I personally would be all over it. Just want your thoughts. Let us know on my Twitter handle. That'll be interesting to get some feedback. No, you're not allowed on this one. And just finally, a big congratulations to Manurewa for, look, Cornflake has already responded. Good on you, mate. Good on Manurewa for taking up the Coleman Cup, beating Ponsonby by 14 points to 10 after they led by 14 points to 0 at a half time, and that's revenge for last year, remembering Ponsonby taking out that victory last year in extra time, and it was of course the Manurewa that came through. So congratulations to Manurewa in their centenary year. Let's hope their males counterparts can go all the way as well.
Yeah, speaking of Club Rugby, one quick shout out, special mention really to the Grammar Tech under-21 Colts. Look, I always keep an eye out on the 21s competition, because in great hope that I could poach some of these good players to come and play for Monica Rovers, but that's not going to happen anytime soon. But these boys, G-Tech under-21s, wow, they played the Ponsonby under-21s this weekend, and 47 points to 5. That's right, 47 points to 5. Absolutely obliterated them. Love the way they played the rugby. Beautiful structure, lots of X factor, lots of smart rugby IQ, and I think that, to me, complete performance. And particularly at the Colts level, this is a team to watch out for. There's a few players there who will be making a name for themselves in the Premier grade in the coming years, and hopefully they will then progress to the Auckland Hoops and not Canterbury or any other province. In Auckland, play their rugby, and then hopefully play for the Blues, and we'll talk about them as All Blacks. So Grammar Tech under-21s, if you guys are watching, your coaching staff, well done, fantastic. You have my respect.
Austin, your turn.
Oh, what? No, I was going to say, well, who's the player to look out there? It must be a few names there we should be keeping an eye out for there, Boa.
Yeah, there's a few names. I've taken notes. I'll float it on the chat, and then maybe Paul can put it on his Twitter handle.
Sounds a plan,
Cool.
Stan. Hey, isn't that once every 4 years team playing this weekend?
So 2 games this weekend. We've got the Lions taking on Japan up in Edinburgh, and also the Maori All Blacks taking on Samoa down in Wellington. So a couple of a couple of those ones there. Someone here says, sorry, Paul, is this going to be a Patreon video about the players changing nations? Yes, that's already available on nzsportradio.com. It's already out there. So Simon, you can go and watch that one, or you can listen to the podcast. That's Patreon only Fiore's only post. So 2 games this weekend. The Sky haven't yet announced that they're showing the Lions game, but they have a TBA live cast at 2:00 in the morning on Sunday morning at the appropriate time. So I've got a funny feeling on the rugby channel. So I've got a funny feeling that will be on Sky for that one.
I have to say, Paul and gentlemen, very excited about the Lions. I've been following some of their skills sessions on TikTok and very impressed. Really very, very inventive, very innovative. So actually can't wait to see what these Lions have in store. And I have to say, I think we're in for a very special series and some really deft, good, high quality skills from the Lions.
We need the Lions to win.
And that's purely from social media comments that Arsha's had enough of seeing. A couple of other things coming up. I've applied for my media pass for the Samoa versus Tonga game at Mount Smart Stadium. So hopefully I get accreditation for that game. And also Stephen and myself will be up in Northland for their club finals day, doing commentary, but also trying to spice up their live stream to be a bit more than just the game. So look out for us videoing things like the coin toss and interviewing the captains and the referee about that, and also hopefully getting the Northland head coach on at half time to run his eye over what he's seen on the pitch as well. So looking forward to doing all of that. So Simon, Simon says, lucky you're going to get to see the World Cup qualifier. Well, maybe I've applied. I haven't been granted, so hopefully I'll actually get it. At least this time I've actually been sent an application, which is the first time I've been sent an application for an international game. So I'm obviously moving in the right direction. So thank you everybody, Bella, Stephen, and Arswin for joining me on the Driving Maul show. We'll be back again.
Been a pleasure.
Next week. Also, post-match reaction to the Maori All Blacks versus Samoa this Saturday. Do join us for all that kind of stuff.